welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here in your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
And remember, our goal is always to guide you to personal and financial wealth.
Welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Actually, it's a Don and Chris Ingram show this Saturday. Welcome back, Mr. Chris.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
Appreciate
Chris Ingram with Ingram Financial Solutions. You probably recognize him. If not, go to donandgino.com or go to ingramfinancialsolutions.com. You'll read up more about Chris. Chris has been on our show for well over 7 years, our financial planner, guru, and good friend. And he's here this Saturday to help me and help you with understanding what's going on in the stock market. And this has happened before. Chris, you've been on this show. We've had at least 4 to 6 times you've been on the show. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Sound like Good Will Hunting, huh?
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's not your fault that you have been on the show during these crashes. But it's, I think, very great timing because a lot of you out there are going, what do I do? Do I panic? Do I sell? Why is this happening? So before we go into the options that everybody should be thinking of and the things they should be thinking of regarding the market today, let's go into a little bit of why we both feel it's happening and how low this may go, at least initially, because there's points. You do the same thing I do. We have these things called Japanese candlesticks that follow the markets, and to you, you're like, oh, I get those when I get sushi. That's different. So what these do is we can monitor the market of how far they've dropped, when they resistance points and support points. Mm-hmm. It helps me with the bond market, so I can tell you a good idea where interest rates are going. Mm-hmm. And about 95% of the time, I'm correct. There are some days, like this last week, where you're like, ooh, didn't see that coming.
Right.
But in most cases, it does help us about 95% of the time go, it should bounce here. I don't think it'll get any higher here unless we get something that's going to be a catalyst to help you get to that level. So
right.
Let's start with the couple of reasons. There's 2 main reasons the market's a little fearful right now. Mm-hmm. I know one of them affects me more than the other,
right?
Which is interest rates. The other one is, of course, tariffs.
Right.
So we both have similar opinions on the Fed raising rates to curb inflation and whether that's right or wrong. And I have my opinions. What do you feel about? Because that's the biggest fear right now, right?
Yeah, I think like you said, tariffs and interest rates, those are the 2 big concerns. I say interest rates are the bigger of the 2. Mm-hmm. Where is the Fed actually going to go? I think, the Fed came out and said 1/4 point rate hike in December, 3 in 2019, and possibly 2 in 2020. That's pretty darn aggressive.
Especially since they don't have data from that yet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you start throwing out rate hikes in 2020 and you have no idea what 2019 looks like,
with an economy that's already seeming to slow from an overheated.
Right. So that's what we've seen, which has been significant over the last 45 days, is a lot of information has come out. A lot of CEOs have come to the table and they basically said, hey, this economy is cooling off a lot faster than I think people thought it would, mm-hmm. and that we need to check the data and recognize what's going on. So there's already some concerns about a slowing economy, and you've got a Fed that's very eager to keep raising rates. Now, the Fed did come out and say, hey, we may need to look at things a little more closely. But I mentioned in the last segment that Jim Cramer had said, hey, sell your stocks if you think that the Fed's going to raise rates in December. And it's not the December rate hike that's the concern.
I agree, because that's pretty much priced in, right?
That's what started all of this.
Right.
The market heard we're going to rate hike in December, and the market started falling. So that's already priced into the market. So if the Fed raises rates in December, that's not the issue. That rate hike is already there. What the bigger concern is now is that you're seeing data that's saying, hey, this economy may be cooling off.
Right.
And then if the Fed moves forward with that December rate hike, given the information that we're seeing, that shows that the Fed may be kind of moving blindly and just rate hiking just for the sake of hiking rates.
And there's different opinions on why they may be doing that. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things, and just so you know, you're like, what does this all mean? What is the Fed raising? They're raising short-term interest rates on your car loans, your equity loans, and shorter-term loans. It's not home loans. Those are controlled actually by the bond market and by mortgage-backed securities. Actually, those buying mortgage-backed securities. So it's really short-term rates. And goal of the Fed is to adjust interest rates according to what's going on in the economy, to either stimulate the economy by lowering rates or to cool it down by raising interest rates so that we don't have high inflation, because inflation is dangerous for everyone, of course. So right now, Chris and I are both under the impression that the Fed might be a little too aggressive on raising interest rates to curb inflation when we are seeing signs, and a lot of the, like you said, the CEOs of the major companies are seeing a slowing. It's not a, it's not, I remember the key thing, same with the housing market. The housing market is slowing. It's not dead. A lot of you are panicking, going, oh, that's the end. We got the bubble, another housing bubble. Oh, here's the economy bubble. No, we had an overheated real estate and economic world because we were coming from the very bottoms of the economy and the very bottoms of the housing market. So, yeah, when you come from the very bottom, you have a lot of room to go up. So now the question is the Fed raising rates too fast? I believe they're raising them so fast, they're going to end up putting us in a recession.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that they're being far too aggressive. I'll go on record saying that I've been telling my wife, because my wife tends to ask me, what does all this mean? What's going on? And I've been saying for years, the biggest mistake they made is that they waited too long to start raising rates. I think they should have started earlier.
I agree.
With more gradual increases.
Yeah, we didn't need 3.25, 3.5 anymore.
we could have gotten to the same place more gradually over time.
Gradual is what people can handle.
Of course, and it's what the markets can handle. And
right.
the economy adjusts to it, CEOs adjust to it, life adjusts to it, the real estate markets adjust to it. But when you start raising too fast, it puts the brakes on everything. And I think that's what we're seeing, is that it's happening so fast that now panic is setting in, the brakes are being applied, and you're seeing big changes in real estate and so on and so forth. So I agree that it seems a little bit too aggressive at this point. And, what the Fed has Mr. Powell has come out, and what he wants to see is a slowdown in jobs growth and wage increases, which is very counterintuitive to what people would think. Well, why don't we want more jobs and more wage increases and people making more money? And all of that is very good for the economy. The way he sees that is that more money at the consumer level, they're spending more money. That causes more demand for products, which therefore pushes prices up, which is going to increase inflation over time.
And debt.
And so he's trying to slow that down and stop that. But again, I don't think he's looking at all of the information and really putting it all together to make a good, sound, rational decision.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that he can, I guess, take his time a little bit and wait till some of the data comes back before he reacts, because he's very much, nope, this is what I said I'm going to do. Raising that 1% in 1 year is a lot to anybody in an economy. Raising whatever, if it's your HELOC loan, I went and got a car loan. I'm like, wait a minute, I was getting 3 something, now it's 4 something. That makes a big difference. It raises the payment, which is say $80 to $300, depending on what you're doing. So it does affect the economy. So my fear is, here's the other comment that he made. And this is where I'm like, sometimes smart people don't say smart things, because he goes, well, if I raise it up enough, I'll have it high enough up so that I can reduce it to help the economy. I'm like, wait a minute, you're just saying that you're going to raise it to slow down the economy so you can save the economy.
Right.
Why don't we just not go into a major recession?
Right. Which is what I go back to is why it should have been more gradual, because I understand the concept. If you have short-term rates at 0, you don't have anything to work with if we go into a recession. So it's the tool they need to be able to work with. So I get that you want to get it higher, but going so rapidly is more the concern there. And and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, so I'll let that out there right off the bat. But there's also been some comments made recently that maybe this is a political agenda and that he is anti-Trump, and that it's very odd that he came out with such aggressive statements right before the midterm elections, and then to stick with that course of action to try and really slow down the economy, which really seems like he's hell-bent on sending us into a recession. And so a lot of people are stepping up to the plate and saying, does he have an ulterior motive? And, I hope that's not true. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I really don't hope that's not the case.
But we got to pay attention to it.
But, my wife asked me the other day, why would they do that? Well, they're fighting for the most powerful position in the world. Right. in the next 2 years. So there's a lot of things that get thrown into the
I
mix.
mean, that
to
can
try and-
counteract, Trump basically saying, hey, look at what I've done to the economy. Look what our administration, he'll say me, but our administration has done
Right.
to
He's
the
not going to say administration.
has done for our economy. And look at how great they are. And then, of course, the other administration is going to say, well, if we can combat that to show that it isn't all them and we can slow it down and we can say, see, that administration isn't doing as great a job as you thought. So there's always that. And unfortunately, it is sad because it affects all of us. It's a political move that sometimes isn't best for the economy or the people.
Right.
I hate that sometimes. So neither of us are politicians and don't want to be. So we're just throwing out thoughts out there because we're in the know about what's being thrown around out there. So when we come back, Chris Ingram with Ingram Financial Solutions, now that we've been seeing the market adjust pretty rapidly, we're going to talk about where it may fall to and what are some of your options based on your particular scenario, your time frames, and how aggressive you feel you want to be in a market. And does this create opportunity? When we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, second half is going to be awesome.